my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai, coming at you live with a video on the Scorn katana. Yes, I know it's been a while since I made the review, the unboxing, then the cutting video, and everything else. And I've had to redo this video twice because I wasn't satisfied with it, and there's a lot of shit to read about the Scorn katana, but I'm just going to summarize it. Alright, sokojikara Scorn katana. The blade steel is T10. The price on TrueSwords.com is $199.99. Right, as of this right now, the original price is $314. So that's kind of what you're going to, that's kind of how I'm going to put this into a ballpark of when I review. For $314. Now, it has right now they have a 37% off sale. I do not know how long this will last. So you might as well pick one up while the price is, while you're only going to pay roughly about $214. Alright, so let's see here. The sword is made out of, like I said, T10 steel. Full tang 28-inch blade. Expertly hand-forged, seasoned swordsmiths, the whole 9 yards. I read this in the second video I made. It took me like 8 minutes to get through it all. So I'm not going to... They say it's graceful, yet elegant, beautiful. You know, overselling the whole thing as marketing does. They say that they say that the process of differential hardening came about in the Edo period. False. Technically, if you want to be completely accurate, differentially hardening steel blades came about in China originally. It was not as prominent as in Japan later on, but since all of Japanese culture and even their swords originally sprang from China, it is logically common sense to understand that Chinese invented differential hardening before the Japanese. It's just the Japanese took it in stride and really developed the technique. Also, they said it was invented in the Edo period. False. If I can formulate the sentence, differential hardening actually came about, really started to come into play during the Kamakura era, which, from the Kamakura era, you have the Kamakura era, you have the Shogun, you have the Sengoku era, you have the Tokugawa, or the Edo period, as they're mentioning. Then you have the Bakufu War, Meiji Restoration, the Taisho era, which Demon Slayer is based off of. Great anime, you should go watch it. Then I think you had like another era, and then you have the modern era. So yeah, a little brief history of that. And they say this is of heirloom quality. Yeah, I'm not buying the whole heirloom quality thing, but again, they have to embellish their things to sell swords. Okay? They say it's elegantly carved and it has Manuki and all the other. It's sales gimmicks, but this is actually a good sword nonetheless. And it does have actual ray skin. Because this ray skin on here is the same texture as the Spring Sakura, the Winter Sun, and both of my Cold Steels. Those are the only swords I actually have real ray skin on. Aside from this one. But, as you can see, I put my classic white tassel on the end of this. On swords, I can figure out how to. So as we start from the kasha and going down, the kasha is a simple black textured kasha. Not a whole lot of accoutrement or fanciness. It does make, this type of kasha does prove to be very easy to tie on my classic white tassels. And before anyone says anything, no, this is not for some martial art. This is not for some weight balancing whatever. This is just because I like the tassels, okay? I'm a tassel guy. I find this appealing. All right? sword on my belt, tassels blowing in the winds. Okay, I got my love of tassels from watching Afro Samurai. Which, by the way, if they make a live action version, I better see Samuel Jackson cast as Afro fucking Samurai, or you're going to hear the longest anime nerd rant speech you'll ever hear from a samurai fan. But moving on. Now, I'm not going to say this is cotton, because it doesn't feel like cotton. This is clearly a nylon Ito. The Ito is clearly nylon by the feel, because both of the Spring Sakura would be a better comparison. The Spring Sakura has a cotton Ito. So does the Crane Katana. But obviously, the Spring Sakura Katana has a much higher quality cotton Ito, which, if I'm being completely honest, I actually prefer a cotton Ito to nylon just because it feels better. Well, cotton Ito or paracord. Like on my golden orchid. I'd much rather prefer, especially for a sword in this price range, Now, as I said, for a sword that's usually selling for $300 plus, there are some things that I have come to expect from $300 plus swords after, buying swords for a while. The $700 Cold Steel Warrior O Katana, for example, that I've had to do I've done a lot of redneck repair work to, being a prime example of some companies cheaping out on their goods. As I've said multiple times about Cold Steel, you're paying for the sword. You're paying for the blade itself, and everything else is just add-on. In a $300 sword, I would think that you are paying at least $200 for the blade. You're at least going to pay about $150 for the blade, and the rest is going to go into the fittings. And I'm not complaining about the fittings overall. They're very good quality, and I can clearly make out a lot of the more delicate effects on the Tsuba. But the nylon is what's getting me. This is clearly a nylon Suka, just by the nylon Ito, just by the feel of it. They could have easily put a good cotton Ito on here, like they did with the Winter Sun, and even the Spring Sakura. This is the Winter Sun, and the Winter Sun Katana. Oh, by the way, a little quick update. The Tsuba wiggles now, but the Ito on this hasn't budged at all, and none of the other fittings have come loose. Tsuba is the only thing loose on this thing, which doesn't really bother me, doesn't affect it. Actually, I kind of do like that whole rattling sound, because it kind of sounds like anime. But in any case, yeah. So as I said, we'll start from the kasha. Simple kasha has this little raised section. All the knots on this sword are tight. The Ito doesn't move around too much. It does move around ever so slightly, but not in any way or form that is a detriment. It is very well done. It's just the material they decided to make the Ito out of. And I'm going to stop ranting now, or else I'm going to sound like a bitch. Now, the Manuki are very interesting because they're not just stereotypical stamped dragon Manuki. These Manuki actually are the weapons held by, those angry statues like outside of Shinto shrines. This is supposed to symbolize power and authority, from what I believe. From what I've heard and what I've read, these Manuki are supposed to be like symbols of power, authority, manly, something like that. Next, we'll move on to the Tsuba. And as I said before, as you can kind of see, don't have anything else with any kind of flashlight on me. Oh, wait. Maybe this will work. Turn off my damn ceiling fan. Dusty. Don't want this to catch. There. So you can see, kind of, it does have very detailed fittings, if I can see if get this thing to focus. As you can tell, it does have very detailed fittings. And on the reverse side, it's just a bunch of kanji, so not really worth struggling over. Once I take this thing apart and see how difficult it is, I'll attempt to give you a better view of the fittings. So, next, I just did this. I do this with a lot of my swords. I don't really use the sugeo a lot. Mainly because whenever I'm using my swords, I don't tend to have the saya in my belt. Since I feel like, in an actual fight, I feel like that the saya would get in the way. Especially if you think about it, like... Oh, shit. Damn it. Especially if you think about it, especially if you are in a confined space, you have the risk of bumping into shit. So, Sasaki Kojiro had the right idea when he threw his saya away to fight Miyamoto Musashi. It was just that Miyamoto Musashi was better. Musashi for the win all the time. But it actually also does come with shidome that are very much well glued in place. Even when I took the sugeo cord off, they didn't fall out, and I can't get my fingernail under them at all. So they do come. So this sword does come with good shidome. The lacquer is also very well done. There's no major scuffs or scrapes or scratches. Well, there is a scuff right here, which isn't a detriment, but it is worth mentioning that it does have a scuff. Now, since I haven't really held this sword a lot lately, I'm not going to say it came like this. It very well could have. There is the possibility. But I'm also going to assume it was also my dumbass swinging this thing around during the unboxing and the cutting video that caused that. So I'm also going to be liable for the damage I caused to my own swords. Now, another thing that this sword doesn't come with that I have grown accustomed to with $300 swords and up is that it has no horned fittings. It does not come with horn on the koigata. No, this is the koigata. Koigata, koiguchi, koi something. I don't remember the end cap, okay? It doesn't come at the horn. It doesn't come with horn at the bottom or at the koiguchi. And the koigata also doesn't have horn. That also isn't horn. You can see it's mainly just lacquer. Another thing. The koiguchi is very well fit. There's not a whole bunch of scuffs or scratches. All in all, very well made sword, but also have to deduct points for the whole no koiguchi. And if my camera would stop trying to hyper focus on everything. There we go. And my camera would quit trying to hyper focus on shit. But yeah, Saya's good. Move on to the blade. Or as I like to call it, the "you dead motherfucker" if this comes out part. The hibaki is very interesting. As I said in the unboxing, they tried to mimic the style of a two-toned hibaki, where traditionally this upper and lower piece would be two separate pieces, but instead they just ground off a little bit and ground in these lines to simulate it. Which I'm not disappointed at all. This is a $300 sword, so I'm not going to expect them to actually make a traditional two-toned hibaki or two-piece hibaki. So that's completely fine. The seppa are your classic brass seppa that are on every other sword in the world, or at least every other katana. And here, I can finally show you in this very decent lighting the hamon pattern. See? It's so much prettier when you can see it. It does have a natural hamon. There. I'm sorry for not being able to give you a better viewpoint. But yeah. I also, how the sword feels in the hand. I will say that this is a stupidly light sword, especially in my hand. And I'm not bragging that I'm so strong and stuff. It's the fact that I'm used to swinging around this behemoth. Right? That big girl over there. I'm used to swinging this thing around one-handed. I fixed this. I fixed the koiguchi too good. And let's just take a slight look here. Yeah, we can obviously see the thickness differences here. And I've gotten accustomed to swinging this thing around one-handed. A sword this freaking big one-handed. So maybe it does sound like I'm bragging on my physical strength just a little bit. But I will say that this sword is very light in my hand. Arguably, I would say it's the same weight as the Dragon King Spring Sakura. It does make the tachikaze sound, but it's extremely faint because of the lack of bohi. And I actually do prefer solid blades like this that don't have a bohi. Now, on the warrior katana, bohi definitely needed, or else that thing would be completely unwieldable. But on swords like these, I don't see why companies have to put the bohi in. Alright? It's an unnecessary feature that, in my opinion, just doesn't need to be there. I'm kind of sick of bohi. I literally only have about 3 katanas now that don't have bohi on them. And I know as soon as I get the Mitsudon katana, there's going to be someone in the comments that says, "Oh, Lord Samurai, I thought you don't like bohi so much. Why you get another sword with bohi?" Mainly because I like the sword itself, and I've seen other YouTubers review it, and I looked at it. This fits my preferences, my likes for what a katana should look like, and I wanted it, and I had the money to get it at the time, so there. I get tired of having to justify why I keep buying swords. But yeah, now, since this video has already become 21 minutes long, I might as well show you me taking this bloody thing apart. But first, let's get some measurements. From Suba to the bottom, to the end of the Kashira, the grip is 11.5 inches. Blade from tip to Munmachi is 27.75 inches. So yeah, Sokojikara, you shaved 1/4 inch off my blade. Now, since these are supposed to be hand forged, there are going to be differences between each one. But if these were like machined, I would think 1/4 inch would be slightly unacceptable. And excuse the whole pile of dirty dishes. I've been busy, okay? Okay, so the tiny hammer thing's not working. See if this bloody bastard will do it. There we go. That's one Mikuki peg down. So I don't lose them. Historically speaking, before, there is something I should mention. And that's historically speaking. You hear a lot of people say, historically, katana only have one bamboo peg. Actually, that is not true. there are actual historical katana that have 2 makugi peg. And if I remember correctly, the 2 makugi peg comes from the Sengoku Jidai, where katana were longer and sharper. Well, not sharper, longer and thicker. You know, we're talking about tachi, like the old katana could be considered a handachi, which is basically a tachi without the stereotypical tachi feelings or fittings. Swords like this were used in war and on battlefields. So they had 2 pins to keep them more secure. Later on in the Edo period is where we see the 1-pin sword, where they get much shorter and lighter and smaller because they become less weapons of war and more status symbols. But let's see if we can't get this bloody Suka core. Oh, hell. Damn. Well, I'll say this for nothing. Sokojikara definitely puts a tight fit on these things. Damn. It didn't even move a hair. Shit. Well, there. Okay, so yeah. I gotta say, with the way that sword is fitted, it's regained a lot of faith with me. Okay? Because I assumed that this thing would just come sliding off. Because because I've never bought a sokojikara before, but honestly, if I'm going to rate this to anything, it is comparable to my Dragon Kings in fit to in Suka to Nikago fit. However, with the Dragon Kings, I could take the Suka off relatively easily with a good strong pull. You saw me try to pull this one off. It didn't come off, so I just ended up putting the pins back in. So yeah. And overall, the grip is very comfortable in my hand. The grip itself, the overall shape it fits great in my hand. Even when I choke up all the way, there's nothing that bites into me, nothing that gives me comfort. And if we actually look very closely at the sword, there is there are actually no ledges on either side of the fushira. Everything butts up pretty damn perfectly, actually. Even at the kasha, there is no notable ledges. So, Sokojikara, I'm sorry for the flack I gave you. So, really the only thing I can say against this sword is the nylon Ito. I would have preferred a cotton Ito at this price point. I feel nylon just cheapens the overall feel of this sword. Just because you get nylon Ito on so many different, like, mall katana, like the zombie hunter, like those green and black zombie hunting swords. They have nylon on them, and it just feels like cheap wall hanger compared to actual functional sword. But yeah. Hmm. I don't know if this is. It looks like the sword is bent. And when I got it, it was perfectly straight. Hmm. Don't know. But this video has already become 31 minutes long, and I try not to harp in these sword reviews. It's just I try to give the best information I possibly can, though I do tend to get off on tangents. So until next time, my noble band of outlaws, outlaw samurai tells all y'all be crazy rednecks, be safe and use your weapons. I'm out, peace. And there will be a snack and drink warning in the description. I'm out.